Welcome to Keeping It 100 Coalition Conversations, the official podcast for the National Coalition of 100 Black Women Metropolitan Baton Rouge chapter. I'm your host, Shanice Lewis. As we gear up for the Be Healthy 100 Community Health Fair happening this Saturday at the F.G. Clark Activity Center, we're excited to highlight Carrying the Weight, a mental wellness panel on stress, trauma, and healing. Mental health is especially timely given everything happening in our communities and across the world. In fact, just today in Baton Rouge, at least 10 people were injured during a mass shooting at the Mall of Louisiana following an argument in the food court. Moments like this are stark reminders that we are in the midst of a mental health crisis, and conversations like this are not just important, they are urgent. Joining me today is one of the panelists for this impactful discussion, Dr. Marshon Isaac Sr., a nationally respected dual-prepared nurse practitioner, researcher, and healthcare leader with more than 18 years of healthcare experience, including over 13 years as a registered nurse and 6 years as a nurse practitioner. A native of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Dr. Isaac is recognized for his leadership at the intersection of mental health, emergency medicine, occupational health, hospice care, health equity, and wound specialty practice. He currently contributes to workforce development and higher education as an adjunct nursing instructor at Southern University and A&M College, and he is deeply committed to mentoring and developing future healthcare leaders. Dr. Isaac is a passionate advocate for trauma-informed care with a professional focus on serving underserved and high-risk populations while advancing conversations around health equity, workforce resilience, leadership development, and mental well-being. And we are so excited to talk to him today. Let's welcome Dr. Isaac to the show. Hi.
Hello. Good evening. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great.
So, your doctoral research focuses on adverse childhood experiences and their long-term impact. Can you explain what ACEs, is it ACEs or ACE, are, and why they're so critical to understanding lifelong mental and physical health?
Oh yeah, ACEs. So during the years of 1995 through 1997, the CDC as well as Kaiser Permanente, they conducted a study of just over 17,000 individuals. Within that study, it was in regard to childhood experiences and health status. The participants were asked to or asked about exposure to abuse, including sexual abuse, verbal abuse, neglect, as well as household challenges before the age of 18. So between the ages of birth and 17 years of age.
So things
And
happen to you when you're older, but it's more critical in childhood.
it's more critical in childhood because of some of the neurobiological effects, which has to do or deals with brain development. And because of those things, those individuals are much higher at risk for chronic disease and some other risk factors as well.
So, what are some experiences from birth? Well, you mentioned some, but give me some more examples from birth to age 17 that can have lasting effects into adulthood. Some things maybe we wouldn't even think about.
Oh, definitely. One of the main factors is childhood neglect, not having a parent within the home. It can be mother, it can be the father, it can be both. Also, an individual within the household who was incarcerated during those childhood years, or an individual who has or predisposing factors for mental health, as well as individuals who have been diagnosed with mental health.
Now,
Um,
I wanted you mentioned something. You said neglect. Would neglect also be living in poverty and just not having food? Is that considered neglect, or is this somebody treating you bad?
Not necessarily. Pretty much within ACEs, neglect is considered the presence of the parent.
Mm.
If the parent is not present within the home, even if parents, even if they're separated and living within separate households, it's still considered childhood neglect because they're not actually within the home.
Okay, so divorce can have long-term consequences on a child's mental health.
Definitely. Definitely, divorce is one of the leading causes of childhood neglect, but also individuals who does not grow up with a parent during their upbringings. But definitely, divorce affect kids in many ways, especially when you take a couple who has been together for years and the child is accustomed to having both of those parents within the home, which provides us a sense of security for that child. So now their sense of security is at risk.
Now, okay, divorce is traumatic, but what if the daddy is cheating and talking to the mama any kind of way? Which one is worse? For which trauma is worse?
I wouldn't say it's a worse. I would say that those challenges just add up on the ACEs screening.
Oh,
Um, for every ACE, you have a point for each one. So there is a such thing as an ACE screening or adverse childhood experiences screening. However, it's not widely used at all. The state of California is one of few states that has protocols that are implemented statewide for adverse childhood experiences.
so what about having an incarcerated parent? How does that impact emotional, psychological development and long-term consequences?
Yeah, again, with the incarcerated parent, because they're not within the home, the child has that neglect. So that neglect is there, and especially again when it comes down to the neurobiological effects, which are those changes within the brain that will affect these kids or these individuals, even adults, for the rest of their lives until a state of healing is brought upon.
So when women say, well, we didn't have a man in the household, I was the mother and the father, and we doing just fine, you saying that's a red flag. That's not true.
Oh, it's definitely a red flag. Is definitely a red flag some way, and we don't realize how we're affected with some things. It takes someone else to realize those things because when you look at ACEs, a lot of it. So the healing process deals with self awareness, and what we do often, we lack self awareness. So definitely, if someone was not within the home, it affects you in some way, form, or fashion. Whether you see it or not, it has affected you in some way.
So, how can individuals begin to break cycles of generational trauma within their families and communities?
So within the families, especially generational, especially within the African American family, um, it starts with awareness, but awareness starts with the conversation. Several parents to this day, as we speak, it may be individuals who are tuning in. Several parents are quiet about what has taken place with their child. Why? Because sometimes they have experienced some of the same things, and now they're saying, "Hey, I was able to live with it." So the expectation from some of those parents is, "Hey, you can live with it as well." Uh,
Mhm.
and it just creates a history. And also within, I can speak from the African American or Black families that, hey, we were taught to what goes on in this house stays in this house. So with
Mhm.
just that alone, you're already coaching a kid to be quiet. You're
Mhm.
already coaching them. You may not realize it, or we don't realize it, but we're explaining to them, hey, do not say anything. So from a kid's standpoint, the kid is thinking, hey, it doesn't matter what happened. It doesn't matter how detrimental it is. Hey, we're going to keep it quiet. But again, it starts with those crucial conversations, asking your kids or asking children, hey, is someone touching you here? Is someone speaking to you in this manner? Having those crucial conversations that many worldwide just refuse to have with their children.
Now, can you explain what is meant by an amnesia state in the context of trauma or mental health?
Definitely. So again, with the neurobiological effects, and with those effects within the brain, the body in general is unique in its own, and each organ within the body, so the heart, the pancreas, the liver, the kidneys, the brain, all has multiple functions within themselves. Within the brain itself, with individuals who have faced traumatic events, there is an amnesic phase. I like to pretty much be transparent about, or I like to utilize the analogy of what do you think about when an individual, preferably a female, states that, hey, I was raped 15 years ago. And
Mhm.
now, 15 years later, so the initial thought for several individuals, most who are not aware or at least mental health aware, um, the
Why you
initial
didn't say
thought,
anything?
right? Why didn't you say anything a long time ago? Did this really happen? You know, you're questioning those things. However, these individuals, there's an amnesic phase that does not have a timeline on it. This can be these individuals where will experience a sense of deja vu. They may experience certain smells, certain certain tones from individuals, certain the verbalization of certain words may start to have a sense of deja vu and take them back to something familiar, but they won't be able to comprehend it because of the biological effects.
So when
So
does it come back? Or they some people never can remember good?
some people leave this world not knowing, hey, why and what happened to me. Some, yes, they remember their exact trauma, but for some, this is a roadway. It's an avenue, and say, hey, they may have a sense of a smell that smells familiar from their traumatic experience that happens, hey, today, but you may not have that feeling or that smell or that feeling of that sense of it feels like I've been here before until you may not realize it until 10 years later. But there's no timeline on it. So
So can
yes,
therapy help you remember it?
definitely. So therapy helps to tap into those things, but it's according to what type of therapy. Preferably uh, trauma informed cognitive behavior therapy.
Now, how does an impulsive state develop and how can it contribute to low self-worth or even involvement in criminal behavior like today at the mall?
Mhm. Oh yeah. So the impulsivity because of the changes within the brain. So you have the amygdala, you have the hippocampus, certain changes within the brain. So that part of the brain that controls impulse, right? So you see this with a lot of kids who are diagnosed with ADHD. However, several times as healthcare providers, we're not we're not getting down to the root of the problem. But with those changes, you have impulsivity, you have lack of emotion, you have where individuals may have maybe hyper emotional. Individuals, they may lack the ability to communicate, all because of those biological effects. And what you have with those individuals as well is a lack of self awareness. So that's where we have an even deeper problem. So just taking or just there's a way that we can assess. if someone is has a sense of self-awareness, one question I often ask my students every semester, and it's not to pry into their personal life, but it's just to make them aware. Hey, who are you? What makes you you? And if we can't answer that question, then we have a lot of work to do within ourselves. But that lack of self-awareness, so these individuals, they go in, they live life not knowing who they are. And when you do not know who you are as an individual, you don't have a foundation. So it's like living life without a foundation. You allow individuals to manipulate you in ways that you shouldn't be manipulated. You allow individuals to utilize you in ways that you shouldn't be utilized. You don't have that sense of self awareness. And what it does, it creates bigger problems. So the impulsivity can create the problem that we have within the Baton Rouge area for sure with crime. Just think about it. The kids today, several of them, not all. So, but several kids, many of them, they live for the moment as in right this minute, not the next hour. With that, you have that lack of self awareness, and you have that impulse. So, when these when when these individuals experience an altercation or a disagreement, right? They lack the ability to control their impulse. So that's when we have highly crime or highly crime areas. So areas where we have murder rates that are just out of the roof because of the impulsivity.
So when you lack self awareness and self worth and you shoot somebody, it doesn't affect you really because you just don't like you zoned out.
I'm not going to say it won't affect them because I do believe if they're within their right state of mind and do not have a detrimental mental health um, deviation, they have a sense of what's going on. I'm not going to say they don't have a sense of what's going on. However, their impulse, that impulse to, hey, this is what I'm doing right now, there's no thinking about it. There's no thinking about pulling that trigger. There's no thinking about breaking into this car. There's no thinking about the domestic violence situations that are occurring with the murder suicide.
And so do well I might be asking, stuff you this might not be your area, but it's so interesting. So when they kill somebody, do you think they're in an amnesia state? Since you just taught me that word, like are they remembering what they're doing?
It's possible that some may be in an amnesic phase, but it's also possible that several individuals know what they're doing. They're aware of it. However, because of their impulsivity, their actions, they weren't they may have been aware of their actions. However, the impulse, this is what I'm going to do right now, instead of thinking about the consequences.
And we have a lot of questions from the audience. Let me scroll back a little bit. um, our president is asking, how do they become self aware? So if you have low self esteem, low self worth, how do you become self aware? Somebody's saying, how do we address the problem?
Yeah, that's the biggie. So it starts with several individuals can fix this problem themselves, but most cannot. It requires that professional help. It requires counseling. It requires getting down to the root of the problem. It requires those individuals to channel your emotions. Why do I feel like this? Why am I sad on most days? Or why do I have such an impulsive demeanor when I'm around this individual? Channeling those emotions, those actions to the root, uh, or just getting down to the root of those emotions and actions is the start of your self awareness. Finding out what you enjoy doing, and not with anyone else. This involves sitting within yourself. So, not being around a crowd of individuals, not going to take a men's trip or a girl's trip. this is this involves a lot of research within yourself. But yes, very well. So it can. I would recommend professional help with counseling. Counseling can help you, especially with cognitive behavior therapy, to channel those emotions and those actions to the root.
Now, many people take psychiatric medication inconsistently and want to take it only when they feel they need it. Could that be part of the problem? Is it important to take these kind of medications as prescribed?
Definitely. Uh, Psych medications, we have neurotransmitters, which most psych medications, they're functioning with some part of or affecting some part of the neurotransmitter or some neurotransmitters or several neurotransmitters. With that, we can't, or we would suggest that you not abruptly stop medications, especially psych medications, um, because it can have detrimental side effects or adverse effects at that point. Detrimental adverse effects, what I would always recommend individuals to follow their treatment plan from their provider. But some of the things that are occurring, yes, I would say it can be a result of that, but we have to think about the individuals who may not be on any medications at all and who does not have a mental illness or a health deviation.
Mm-hmm. So you are an adjunct nursing instructor at Southern University, and you have a unique perspective on student wellness. So many college students are experiencing severe mental health challenges, including breakdowns they struggle to recover from. So what's driving this, and what support systems are needed?
Stressors are one of the leading causes of individuals within the realm of college or higher education. With that, during my psychiatric nurse practitioner clinical, I noticed that individuals, the younger population, so individuals who were about between the ages of 21 and probably 35, several of them were very smart, very knowledgeable. But what you found is that their first break or breaking point was during the college years. Some of these persons were in law school, some were in med school, some were in nursing school, but they had that first breaking point during college years because of the stressors. So learning how to coping strategies. However, if you don't have that sense of self-awareness, it's hard to cope with, or it's hard to find positive things as a coping mechanism.
Now, when
Where
you say first breaking point, what does that look like?
first breaking point can look like it can be a plethora of things. It can it can result into hallucinations, especially if we're speaking within the realm of schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder. It can be in the scope of hallucinations, delusions. It may be verbal or visual. These individuals may see or hear voices, may see individuals who are not actually there. So it can be an array of things. It can be anxiety. It can create a state of anxiety, also a state of depression as well.
Hmm. So you mentioned schizophrenia. Is it true that that can remain dormant before the first psychotic episode? And what are some of the early warning signs people should be aware of?
I like to explain schizophrenia as remaining dormant because most individuals who have schizophrenia or who are diagnosed with schizophrenia, they're not diagnosed until after a traumatic event. Once that traumatic event happens, they may go through life and it may be the fifth traumatic event. For some, it may be the first. It may be even a death that may cause them to have that first breakdown.
Like a parent's dying.
Pretty much, yes,
Mhm.
yes. That's a huge factor. Parent dying, a spouse, the death of a spouse, the death of a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but sometimes, again, it can just be the stressors of life. Someone gets overwhelmed. It can be the stressors of a job within the workplace. But yes, man.
So when things are dormant, is no way it could be diagnosed.
It can be diagnosed. So with especially with schizophrenia, with most things within the scope of the realm of mental health, there are clinical signs and symptoms that we pay close attention to. Does this person have a history of suicidal ideation, homicidal ideation? Do they have hallucinations again? Or are they experiencing a state of not finding fulfillment in things that they normally enjoy? Or is this person overeating, or is this person not eating at all?
Now, when somebody has a hallucination, I've never been around somebody like that. Are they telling you they're seeing stuff and you look and be like, I don't see what you're talking about? Is that what it is? Like on a movie?
So these individuals can experience visual hallucinations, which are voices that they may hear but may not actually be there, but are actually not real. And it may also be visual hallucinations. They may be talking to someone in a corner who's not actually there.
Mm. Okay, let's go to the audience because they saying all kind of stuff in this audience. Okay, somebody has got a big long question. Some students turn to marijuana to cope with the stresses of having a balance, classes, relationships, and family life. Is it true though that heavy marijuana drug use can trigger some of these psychological mental breakdowns? Well,
Yes.
also, can't you get bad marijuana laced with fentanyl?
Oh yeah, especially now. Yes. So we have marijuana and we have mojo.
So,
uh,
what's the difference?
so mojo is something that's totally different. It's something that as healthcare providers we can even point a finger on an individual or signs and symptoms. There are not even lab studies that points to mojo or the utilization of mojo, which is synthetic marijuana. However, we what we do is pay attention to trends. We look at the trends, especially some lab studies, and we correlate those, and we come up with a synopsis or a conclusion that okay, this is most likely ingestion of synthetic marijuana or mojo. However, marijuana with I would say if it becomes a state of dependence where these individuals have to have it, they need it. Well, now it's becoming um, they're becoming addicted to it. So now you have developed an addiction.
And so, can you be addicted to the prescribed marijuana, or are we just talking about the street marijuana?
So we're talking about the marijuana that's on the street right now,
Okay.
not the prescription one. I don't touch base on the prescription marijuana too much.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I still have a lot of knowledge to gain within that area, and
Mm-hmm.
there's still a huge gray area with prescription marijuana as well.
Okay. So, can you discuss the connection between mental health and chronic conditions like heart disease and diabetes?
Yes, definitely. Um, I like to, so I love to use ACEs as, to me, ACEs is like, are you familiar with an oak tree? How large an oak tree is?
Mm-hmm.
So just imagine the root of an oak tree. The roots of an oak tree is massive, right?
Right.
I like to explain ACEs as the root of a tree that has multiple branches. One of those branches so happen to be chronic diseases, chronic illnesses, hypertension. The linkage between hypertension and ACEs or adverse childhood experience or traumatic events in general. So we're speaking of ACEs and traumatic events that have not occurred within the childhood years. So it may be domestic violence. These individuals, any trauma places you in a state of fight or flight with your catecholamines, epinephrine, and norepi. So with that, we have what we term vasoconstriction.
Mm-hmm.
Vasoconstriction can be, I like to use the analogy of a hose pipe, a water hose. Um, if we have a kink in the water hose, eventually that water has to give somewhere, right? The same way with hypertension. So, with that kink, it works just like the body with our veins and our arteries. So, with the release of the catecholamines, epinephrine and norepi, because of the constant state of you're living through fear, right? There's a
Mm-hmm.
constant state of I'm living through fear, and we have a constant release of those catecholamines. With that constant release, we develop hypertension because our arteries and our veins are constantly in a state of stretching, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a constant state of stretching because you're in a constant state of fight or flight. You're in a
Mm-hmm.
constant state of that. You have, again, with these individuals with ACEs, I have this smell that reminds me of this trauma, or this smell reminds me of something. Automatically, their state of fight or flight is automatically sensitive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, with that, these individuals have a chronic state of hypertension.
Mm-hmm.
Also, with hypertension, it can lead to cardiac disease, but more so with trauma, individuals who have experienced trauma, it's a leading cause of obesity as well. That healthcare providers, not many healthcare providers have focused on it because we're not aware of it. There's a knowledge deficit within healthcare providers or healthcare in general with adverse childhood experiences, especially, but trauma related to obesity.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, with obesity, we have a high risk of developing diabetes. But with those individuals with obesity, what we have is a state of emotionally eating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For example, okay, I get ticked off today at work. First thought is, what am I going to eat today?
Mm-hmm.
And when those individuals eat, they happen to overindulge sometimes, or it's a meal that may be um, very high in calories. So that's when, okay, according to how often you're experiencing this state of sadness, or this state of I'm ticked off, or I'm mad because of this or that, or that constant state of fight or flight, right? That So they're in a constant state of eating things that are not good for the body. So consequently, we have development of cardiac disease, diabetes, hypertension, in addition to mental health disease.
Mm-hmm. Now look, I'm big. I eat when my stomach is growling. Now I'm not eating for no emotional support. I really do be hungry.
Hey, I'm a healthy guy myself. But I can speak from personal experience. Yes, I have been in a state where I was an emotional eater, but
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn that. I had to channel, hey, why am I indulging in this? What's causing this? But when you find those things out, then you become aware, and okay, now I can journal, or I can do this, or I can do that. Journaling helps out a lot. Writing down, hey, if you're experiencing something at work today, go ahead and journal it down, and
Mm-hmm.
it helps. Sometimes you may not want to speak to individuals. I'm not going to advocate that. However, if you're not speaking to anyone about it, journal it out. Let that be your outlet.
So we've seen an increase in suicide rates among Black men. What factors do you believe are contributing to this trend?
Some of it are one of the most. My theory is that sense of self awareness. We have black males, the black male population right now, we're at an all-time high of suicide rates, and that rate is climbing. It seems like almost every day.
And is
Uh,
it just you? But everybody keeps saying black people used to didn't commit suicide. Is that true, or that's just what we're saying? Because now it's just on social media and the news.
well, I'm not going to say that we haven't been there before. I think it's always been there. Right now, what makes everything just hyper vigilant is that we have social media.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is on social media, which is can be a sense of mental health
A trigger.
as well. Yeah, because individuals looking for that sense of validation from social media. How many likes did I have, or did I not have any likes? But the awareness of the black male population and suicide in general, that sense of self-awareness, and when especially an individual who have experienced some sort of trauma, especially within the childhood years, they lack that sense of self. Even if the father was incarcerated, or even if the father or mother wasn't in the home, that sense of self-awareness is not where it should be. They have that sense of individuals may be able to just say, hey man, you're it may just be something simple. You're ugly today. It may seem simple to them. Or I will give the example that I had on an interview. I knew going into the interview, and I always, before I tell this story, I always tell individuals there's a difference between cocky and being confident. When you confident, but you have the ability to step back and still learn, and you have the ability to step back and tell individuals when you're not aware of something or you're not knowledgeable about something. But I was on an interview, and I know where I came from as far as my career path. I knew from day one when I became a nurse, hey, I wanted to learn as much, not everything, because I don't think it's a such thing within the nursing profession or within healthcare in general. It's ongoing learning. But I knew I have worked, I have worked and worked and worked to uh, get my resume to where it is, let my resume speak for me. So I went into an interview, and there was an individual, and she said, "You look good on paper, but who are you? You look good on paper, but who are you?" If I was an individual who lacked self awareness, that would have been a state that could have taken me anywhere. It probably would have left me questioning, well, why, or who am I, or why wasn't I hired for this job, or maybe I'm not the best for this position. But no, I have a great sense of self awareness. I know just who I am. I know what I have become. I know any interview I go in, I am a top candidate. So when you sit back and you think about those situations, when you lack that self awareness, it can affect you in so many ways. For some individuals, they may not have taken it as I took it. It was a stepping stone for me. It helped paint a transparent picture that this is not where I need to be. But
Mm-hmm.
for some, they may not have handled it the same way. It would have been something totally different. And for some, it may have gone down a state of major depressive disorder.
Now we got a lot of comments in the audience. Let me go back to one or two of these. I'm not a medical doctor, but I think there are many factors to consider, such as mistrust of the healthcare system. Cultural differences can affect communication between patient and the healthcare providers. Lack of representation in clinical research can lead to gaps in understanding specific health issues. So many factors. Okay, that's a more of a comment than a question. This is, can you touch on the lack of trust our culture have with medicine, especially psychiatrics? There is this claim it pray wait, this claim it pray it away and not dealing with the pain. So I guess pray it away instead of going to a professional.
Hey, I believe in faith. Yeah, you do have to have. Well, I'm not going to say you have to have, but I would highly recommend having a strong faith for sure. But can you place that question back up real quick?
Okay. I might
I
have
know
I might have messed up reading it.
a lack of trust. Okay, can you
Oh, the
tell
one
me
before that one?
the lack of trust our culture have with medicine, especially psychiatrists? Well, I do know we as a culture of, if we're speaking in terms of the black culture or African American culture, uh,
Yes.
for sure, because I have firsthand experience with this. The African American male, they're looking for someone who looks like them, which is slim, very slim. There are not many, especially psychiatrists. I know of. Hmm, Black psychiatrists, I know of one, a great one, uh, really good, great guy. I know of one for sure, but there's not many. It's scarce. So with that, a lot of them they don't seek help. But when we have when we have had issues within the healthcare system, especially, so say for example, there is a such thing as, because studies show where the healthcare system or providers, we undermine we undermine pain of the black
Black.
female a lot of
Uh,
times. So when we have issues like that, and when the individuals within medicine or within healthcare, yeah, we're working towards bridging the gaps with that, but we also have to work. We have to do our work as African Americans or Black individuals within the healthcare system as well. We need to produce more providers. We have to produce more Black male providers, so we can build that trust. Because right now, yes, there is a lack of trust sometimes. Sometimes the healthcare system, sometimes we do, and all it takes is one situation which can be detrimental for the rest of someone's life. Oh, I experienced this with my mom. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying at home.
mm-hmm.
So that's what we tend to have. But sometimes it takes someone, and we know that within medicine, especially when you're researching on a doctoral level, you research from cultural perspectives. So we understand that, hey, we need more providers who are of the minority population.
So, what are some effective ways to normalize seeking help, especially in the Black community?
One of the most effective ways is having conversations as we're having now. Because with these conversations, we develop a self of, okay, now we're aware. Now we're aware that we have a black male who may have experienced this. We have a black female who may have experienced that, or in general, anybody. It doesn't have to be a black or white thing, because, hey, everyone has someone in their family who has experienced some sort of mental health issue or mental health deviation. But where do we go from here is having those conversations, parents having those conversations with your children. Hey, is anyone touching you? Having that conversation that, hey, your private area is off limits. Having the crucial conversations with your kids, sitting them down. We have to have them. We can't run from them, because while we're running, someone else is running to our kids to harm them in a way. And that's when we have that generational trauma.
Now, what if you are someone that doesn't have insurance and doesn't has a means to go to therapy? What can you do?
There are several avenues, especially within the Baton Rouge area. There are several avenues, several entities who are seeking individuals who does not have insurance for mental health treatment, even for counseling. There are several avenues, and especially when it comes down to also addiction and recovery as well.
So we getting a lot of comments. You getting a lot of kudos from old students. I think your
I
daughter is in here cheering you on. And here's a comment. We
think we lost it. Hello?
did I freeze? Hello,
Yeah. Yeah, I
you
was
there?
yeah, I'm here now.
Okay, so I don't know personally a black person that has went to therapy and openly talks about it.
Yeah, it takes a lot, especially for the males. It takes a lot for us to go out and have and seek that professional help, especially with the counselors. However, there are several things. Hey, we can be strong in faith, but we have to go further. We have to go further. We have to seek that professional help. Hey, link up with a counselor. And I love to explain with counselors, it may not be the first counselor, it may not be the second counselor, it may not be the third or fourth. It may be that fifth counselor that you're able to connect with. And you don't want a personal connection. You don't want a personal relationship with this individual. You want this individual to tell you, hey, where you stand with certain things, especially when it comes to you channeling your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions to things that can be detrimental to your life. But yes, whatever you do for individuals, hey, seek counseling and do implement homework for yourself and learn who you are as an individual. Do the research. There's research out there. Hey, how can I find out who I am? Learning those things, developing that sense of self awareness. And then when you develop that sense of self awareness, then you stand for something for sure.
And so we've discussed risk factors. What are some of the protective factors, such as supportive relationships or community programs? What else you can do on top of therapy just to keep your reduce the long term impact of childhood trauma?
One of the main things that we can do is have positive relationships. Developing those positive relationships, there's a such thing that I love to use, protect your peace. Um,
Mm.
Whatever, but you can't find your peace if you don't have this sense of self-awareness. The likelihood of you finding it is slim. What actually, where's my peace, or what do I find peace in doing? So finding that sense of peace for sure.
And look at this comment, because we are taught to suck it up and be a man, but the most important part is never taught. It's okay to talk to someone, and it's okay as a man to cry and let it go, or pressure will bust a pipe. And boy, when some people bust, it's too much.
So true story. Um, so I have my oldest son. He always, and several times, he have asked me, "Dad, I've never seen you cry. I've never seen you cry." And I say, "Well, son, hey, it's just not one of those days, or you have not seen it." However, last night at we were in clinical at midnight, and I had an overwhelming sense of emotions that came about, and I cried in front of my students. I cried in our discussions. It was the discussion of me pouring into them and me making a commitment that I will give them my all this semester. So we spent many a nights in there until 1 a.m. And last night it was just that sense of, I asked God for this, and I feel like I was able to accomplish exactly what God gave him, but broke down crying right there in front of them. It was great for them to see, because what they have seen throughout the semester is a tough guy, someone who is on them, someone who is, hey, there's not a smile because you're practicing under my license. So we're serious through the entire semester until last night. I was able to, And that was the first time I have cried in, it's probably been years, especially like that. But it occurred with, it was ironic that it occurred in front of my students. So yes, it's okay for you to cry as a man. It's okay for you to discuss things. The only thing about discussing anything with a black male in particular is that if he's opening up to you, make sure you don't use it against him. And that's with anyone. That's even with females. It doesn't have to be black or white. It's whatever race, whatever ethnicity. If someone is opening up to you, I'm not going to say vulnerable, because when you look up the definition of vulnerability, it doesn't align with what some of us are actually, the true meaning that we're trying to get out there. However, I would say, or I like to use the analogy of, being emotionally open.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
okay for us men, black, white, whatever ethnicity, for us to be open in every sense, but still be careful who you are open to. But you have to have someone. If that's a professional, healthcare professional, hey, let it be a healthcare professional, but someone, because you don't want to be that individual where this is a boiling pot. You have all of this in a great gumbo, but a great gumbo in a negative manner. You don't want that. You don't want the okra, shrimp, sausage, all of that in your mental health gumbo. No.
And in the comments, a lot of people are saying they go into therapy. So I guess I do know some people going to therapy, but I guess it doesn't come up in casual conversation.
Yeah.
So, oh, this is an interesting conversation, and it was so great because I learned so much talking to you. And I want to remind everybody that this is just the beginning of the conversation, but you're going to be a part of a panel discussion this Saturday at our B Healthy 100 Health Fair. And you're going to be joined with some other people in the field. And this is just very timely right now, not just in Baton Rouge, but around the world. So we hope you will join us this weekend. It's free to attend. You can register online. But if you don't know how to scan a QR code or register online, just come down and we can register you in person. So, thank you again for this. This was a really great conversation, and the audience is just talking and talking like this. Like we'll have to do a part two on mental health because there's some more stuff I could ask you. We could go on and on. This was great.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's a pleasure. Um, and these, we need more conversations of such. This is the beginning. This is the beginning of the awareness. Once we're out there, once we're aware, okay, it's okay to have these conversations with my child. Now what can we do? But it starts with that awareness. And that awareness, and I'll say this, that awareness is going to look different for a lot of people when you start becoming aware, hyper aware, and you start making changes, especially changes within the family. From other family members, this may look different. Your child may not attend certain things because of your comfort level. So you may look at the one who may be the outcast for a little while, but hey, they'll get accustomed to it. But that generational trauma has to break somewhere.
Now I'm leaving this comment up here. This looks like it's your wife. Amazing presentation. Job well done, my husband. Dr. Marshon Isaac. Is your wife in 100 Black Women? Is she in our chapter?
She is. She is. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. What you about to say?
Yes, ma'am. She is. Thank you so much.
And so somebody said, I unintentionally clicked on this, but it was definitely worth it. Great information. It's saying, great job, Dr. Isaac. Amazing job, my brother. I love you, man. You are amazing. Very knowledgeable. And so this was great. Thank you for joining us. And we'll definitely see you Saturday at the health fair.
I'll be there. Thank you guys so much. Have a great evening.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
And so, as we close out today's conversation, I hope this discussion has encouraged you to reflect, prioritize your mental health, and continue these important conversations within your own circles. Be sure to join us this Saturday at the Be Healthy 100 Community Health Fair. And let me post some of the things that's going to be there. We're going to have jig aerobics there, so you can come and work out to the music. It's like a dance aerobic. That's there. That will be free. Also, we're going to have, let me add the official flyer. We're going to have screenings, a kids corner, and this is going to be an amazing event. So make sure you're there. Bring a friend. Again, admission is free, and you can register in advance or in person at the door. It's on Southern University's campus in the Mini Dome, and the official name of the Mini Dome is the F.G. Clark Activity Center. And so don't miss the panel that Dr. Isaac is going to be on. Is Carrying the Weight, a mental wellness panel on stress, trauma, and healing. That panel will begin at 12:30. So it's a conversation you don't want to miss. Thank you again to my guest, Dr. Marshon Isaac Sr., for being my guest this show and for the phenomenal work that you're doing. And to stay up to date with everything we're doing in our chapter, visit our website at ncbwmetrobr.org and join our email list. If you want to support the work our chapter is doing, you can always give us a donation through our website by clicking the Donate tab in the menu. I've been your host this evening, Shanice Lewis, on behalf of the Metropolitan Baton Rouge chapter and President Dinesh Piper. Thank you for tuning in to Keeping It 100 Coalition Conversations. And until next time, be blessed.